Hello, welcome to CBC. I'm Bakhtiar Asanov and you are watching Frankly Speaking analytical program. This time we will talk about 8 months after Britain's exit from the EU. The people of Britain voted for a Brexit in a historic referendum on June 23, 2016. The new Prime Minister Theresa May plans to trigger Article 50 by the end of March 2017. Today our guest Orkhan Amashov, head of the Diaspora Department of the London-based the European Azerbaijan Society, will share his views about the current and future situation in Britain. Hello, Mr. Amashov.
Hello, it's great to be here.
Mr. Amashov, how long will it take for Britain to leave the European Union?
Well, as things stand now, British government feels quite confident that they will be able to trigger Article 50 by the end of March. And it was a long process. Back in June of 2016, there was the expectation was set there would be no need for parliamentary approval, but that expectation did not prove to be the case, and we can speak about it later. So it will start end of March this year and probably will take about 2 years, and by middle 2019 Britain will be outside of the European Union.
So what is the reason that it will take too long for Britain to leave the European Union?
First of all, there's a formal process which Britain, as any other member, is to follow. Initially, there should be a formal position of the British government. Existing government should trigger Article 50. In order to be able to do this, the British government initially thought that there will be no need for parliamentary approval because a referendum's wording was crystal clear, saying that Britain is, as a result of the referendum, Britain will leave the European Union. And what happened later, there was this particular position, which did seem to be quite crystal clear back in 2016, was challenged. There was the Miller's case, and the High Court decided that government cannot unilaterally decide on triggering the Article 50 of the Treaty on the European Union. And then this decision was upheld by the Supreme Court in January of this year. And afterwards there was a debate in the Parliament, initially in the House of Commons, and the EU bill has passed through House of Commons, and the next stage is going to be House of Lords. So the entire legal uncertainty about it was one of the main reasons why triggering, an actual triggering of Article 50 did take such a long time. And also before triggering Article 50, British government must know what they're going to do about negotiations. And it's quite clear that European Commission and European Council were crystal clear in their position that they wouldn't start formal negotiations before Article 50 triggered. So for that reason, of course, it did take quite a lot of time for British government to come to this position. There were certain problems in terms of formulating a position, and also there were some constitutional matters. And let me say that Brexit was quite an unprecedented thing for the British constitutional system. It was the first time that Britain was about to leave such a large union as the European Union. There was no constitutional precedent. It wasn't very clear how government should go about it. So therefore there was a long process. But by the end of March, Theresa May is widely expected to trigger Article 50. The process is still underway. The House of Lords should give its consent, and there will be another stage, and before EU bill becomes a royal assent according to the British constitutional system, Theresa May is not in a position of doing it. But if things go as they are expected to go, by the end of the March the article will be triggered, and there will be a 2-year negotiation process afterwards.
And what will happen to the EU citizens and working and living in the UK, and also UK citizens working and living in the EU?
There's no clear answer to this question at this stage. The position is that those European Union citizens who have been in the UK for the last 5 years, they will get a permanent residence, so they will be able to stay in the UK, but it is very much contingent upon the further negotiations between Britain and the European Union, and it will all be clarified and decided upon in the course of the next 2 years. But my expectation is that those who are in the UK already, they will stay in the UK, and probably some same sort of privileges will be enjoyed by British citizens who are living in the European Union. But it's quite clear that the immigration to a certain extent will be curbed. Also, many people who voted for Brexit back in 2016 June were expecting that immigration will be curbed at a drastic level. I don't think that is going to happen, because the world is deeply globalized and the relations between Britain and the rest of the European Union is so intense and close that curbing immigration to the extent it was expected would be totally impossible. But there will be certain reduction in immigration as a result of the process.
So, Mr. Amashov, what do you think? What does Brexit mean for Britain's economy?
For British economy, it means the following things. First of all, it means certain uncertainty, because living the single market, of which Britain is part now, is going to be quite challenging. The most people who were on the Remain camp were saying that yes, European Union has got lots of problems. Yes, some of those problems are quite challenging indeed, but we know what we have. We do have certain element of certainty, and European Union is a big market for the UK. So it is problematic, but it is certain. That was the key creed of the Remain camp. Those people who were advocating to leave the European Union were saying that, but there's no future, there's no long-term ambition and prospect in this position. And yes, there will be uncertainty, but within that uncertainty, Britain will have so many opportunities which could be easily utilized. So for that reason, I believe that we cannot say anything definite at this stage, but it's quite clear that Britain will try to be even more global player outside the European Union, and they will try to utilize all of those opportunities which were initially blocked by virtue of Britain being a member of the European Union. And for that reason, there are challenges and there are opportunities. It's a question of the balance and how the British government and other governments, they will be able to utilize these things. It's a matter for speculation, but it seems that it's a very much a kind of question to which it's impossible to respond now.
Several banks are set to pull out of the UK in 2017, and it's expected to increase the number of unemployed people in the country. And what do you think, how will it affect the economy of Britain?
Well, it's fundamentally the question about UK economy and also the position of London as a financial centre. If banks will leave London, City of London, the station and the stature of City of London as a global preeminent financial centre, of course, will change. But the real question here, where will these banks move to? Are they planning to move to Frankfurt or to Paris, to Amsterdam? The real thing is that, yes, EU, as a result of exit from the EU, it is very clear that City of London will lose its EU passporting rights, which was one of the main reasons and a fundamental legal tenet in line with which all the European Union elements of the market were able to come to UK, and the City of London was very much a European Union ingredient within this entire spectrum of things. But the fundamental thing which is in favour of London is that those banks, even if they decide to move, they do not have many places to move to. Amsterdam, Paris and Frankfurt, they are not in a position of replacing London as a financial centre. So also certain losses are expected, but the position of City of London as a financial centre, I very much doubt that will be challenged. And also it's a question of regulations. Those European Union countries do not have proper regulation systems put in place.
So what do you think, how will pensions, savings, investments and mortgages be affected?
Well, it's not. I don't expect that those things will be affected. It's quite peripheral to the entire question. The most important thing which we need to concentrate on is that London is not going to be replaced by any other financial centre, because no other financial centre is in a position of replacing London in that station. There are two global financial centres, New York and London has got huge geographical advantage, and a European Union will be hugely disadvantaged by virtue of severing its relations with its former financial centre. So I'm very much of the opinion that London's preeminent position will not be changed. As long as the UK economy on the whole are concerned, it will very much depend on the trade deals which British government are currently trying to negotiate with its future partners. Because, as you know, while being a member of the European Union, the negotiation power rests with the Commission, and therefore Britain wasn't able to negotiate trade deals. So, and currently they cannot actually commit themselves to anything because they haven't left the European Union. But British Prime Minister has already been to America and to Turkey and to other countries, and it looks like that Britain is preparing the ground upon which they would be able to act after the formal exit from the European Union.
Unlike the rest of the Britain, Scotland and the Northern Ireland voted to remain part of the European Union. So what does the Brexit mean for Scotland and Northern Ireland?
Well, of course it did create quite a huge political uncertainty, because as you remember, England and Wales voted in favour of leaving the European Union, whereas Northern Ireland and Scotland, they voted to remain within the European Union. So the question was, you know, it's quite clear that from the constitutional point of view, the legitimacy of Brexit could easily be challenged as long as Scotland and Northern Ireland are concerned. But from the EU perspective, the position was that European Union and its relevant institutions can negotiate only with one country, because they have to respect the integrity of the EU member country. So therefore there will be no negotiations neither with Scotland nor with Northern Ireland, or even nor with London, because as you know, London also as a capital voted hugely in favour of staying in the European Union. As long as the future of the Scottish independence question is concerned, as you know, back in 2014 there was a referendum, and the referendum resulted in Scotland remaining as a part of the United Kingdom. It was 55 to 45. And back then it was widely expected that that decision was settled for generations to come. So at least for 2 decades we could expect no more referendum. But in 2016, almost immediately after the referendum, Nicola Sturgeon, the leader of the SNP and the leader of the Scottish government, declared that there was a material change to the status of Scotland, and therefore Scotland will try to stay within the European Union. There were a couple of questions asked. How could Scotland remain as a part of the European Union as long as being part of the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom is no longer going to be a member of the European Union? There were lots of questions. The one thing is very clear. Scotland will not be able to talk to EU directly about its future, but Theresa May declared and promised that there will be a UK-wide approach while Britain will be negotiating the terms with the European Union. And that UK-wide approach means that Theresa May and her government will try to take into account the peculiar needs of London as a large capital city with its own characteristics, and Northern Ireland and in particular Scotland. So the Scottish interests will be taken into account, but Scotland will not be able to negotiate with the European Union. As to the question about the second referendum, it is very much possible, but I do not think it's going to happen very soon indeed. It's a long process, and Scotland cannot start the process of referendum on its own. It should happen through the Westminster, and I do not see much appetite on the side of Westminster at this stage about this matter.
So what do you think about the future development of the UK-Azerbaijani relations, especially after Brexit?
But UK-Azerbaijani relations have always been quite brilliant for the last 2 decades, in particular in the light of the oil agreement, and UK is the largest direct foreign investor in our economy, in Azerbaijani economy. As long as Brexit is concerned, Brexit is a very interesting moment. I would try to focus on the positive bits of Brexit as far as Azerbaijani-UK relations are concerned. Now Britain is in a position of thinking more globally, thinking outside the scope of European Union, and Azerbaijan is not a member of the European Union. It's outside it, and it's trying to formulate its own relationship with the EU institutions. So I think countries like Azerbaijan will have some sort of advantage by means of Brexit. There could be certain challenges, but I would be in favour of focusing on the positive bits of Brexit as far as UK-Azerbaijan relations are concerned. Let us not forget that Britain now in a position of drawing its own trade deals with all sorts of countries without seeking the permission of EU institutions, without talking to EU Commission. So we should try to see the certain element of independence which British government will get as a result of Brexit, and how this independence will benefit British relations of Britain with other countries, including Azerbaijan.
Mr. Amashov, thank you very much for your comprehensive replies to the questions.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a great pleasure to talk to you.
This was Orkhan Amashov, the head of the Diaspora Department of the London-based the European Azerbaijan Society. It's all for today. Thank you for watching.